Greetings, everybody. I had this wonderful email from someone who asked me, does doing the Gurdjieff work extend life expectancy? I'd like to think so myself. So I said, I replied in the affirmative. We all like to live forever, I'm sure. Though at the same time, I think that our mission on this planet is to live, develop, live, laugh, dance, develop, die, and return to the divine source. But living for a long time would be great because sometimes one feels that this lifetime is not enough time to develop oneself and do the work and become, the person we're supposed to be. Just doesn't Time just seems to be flying by, especially I'm pretty sure there's something going on in the matrix. Time seems to have sped up. I've had people tell me before time speeds up when you're older anyway. But I know of young people that are saying time seems to be flying by. So, people, we need to use this time productively. But regarding this email, I found in Views from the Real World, which I thought was just brilliant. So this is from Gurdjieff. The secret of prolonging life depends on the ability to spend the energy of our centers slowly and only intentionally. Learn to think consciously. This produces economy in the expenditure of energy. Don't dream. And I've done a show about daydreaming. Daydreaming wastes energy. And I suppose for a longer life, we need to save on energy. But at the same time, when we're working on ourselves, we're creating a higher frequency of energy, which is much more powerful. And I had all these words to use for it. Now I've forgotten them. It's a higher vibration would probably work at a better rate, obviously. So probably would prolong life, where when we're daydreaming, we're wasting energy in imagination and daydreams and wish fulfillment, when that energy could be used productively on working on yourself and your centers instead. And it's not just wasting energy on daydreaming and such like. We waste our energy on negative emotions and such like. And also negative emotions and that kind of thing drag us down. So we're getting a lower vibration, so that the energy is not producing like it should be. Instead, it's having to work in a way harder, even though it's denser. And it's being eaten up by all that negative activity. I've noticed, for example, if I'm angry, I did a show recently about how I lost my temper with somebody, that drained me a lot. So that's not creating energy, is it? That's wasting energy. And doing this work, we want to be in a higher vibration, so that we're creating purer energies within us so that we can work on ourselves, a more flowing energy, which I'm pretty sure will prolong our lives and perhaps give us the life expectancy that we need to be able to do the work and develop ourselves and transform ourselves. I recently did a show on alchemy and what Steiner was saying about transforming ourselves. It's all an alchemical process. And to do that process, we need the right energy in us to transform. We're transforming the denser, lower vibrational energies into higher frequencies and energies, so that doing the work, I'm not saying comes easier to us, but it works within us. And then we're working with it. Whereas when we're on the lower vibrations, it's harder to put the work in with what we're doing. It's harder to imply it or implicate it into our lives. Am I using the right words there? Bit of a struggle here. See, the energy's going back and forth in me when it should be nice and flowing, so that I could just get out the words I'm trying to say. But I'll just go back to Gurdjieff and read him. So he's saying, clocks have a regulator. If it is moved, the clock can work slower or faster. My clock can go for a week or a month, although its spring is calculated for 24 hours. The unwinding of the mainspring is our impressions and associations. The only thing we can do is to economize. The only thing we can do is to economize. Time is proportionate to the flow of associations. It is relative. The more you concentrate, the quicker the time goes. Externally, time does not exist. It exists for us only internally. Just as in the thinking center, associations go on in other centers also. We also got to remember at times the great heropass, as Gurdjieff calls it, this is what made his endlessness put the universe into operation, because time was eaten away at the sun absolute in the divine sources, his endlessnesses, place of residence. And so to slow down time, that's why he made the universe. I still don't quite get my head around all this, but it's time that eats away at everything, as we all know. But it's interesting, he's saying here about the unwinding of the mainspring. We've all got a mainspring within us. Everybody's springs unwinding from the moment they are born. From the moment that you are born, your time begins to death, to your death. And I think he's saying that we can slow it down if we work upon ourselves and make more use of that time. Where if we're wasting our energy daydreaming, time kind of speeds up, and that's eating away at your life force. So by working on ourselves, we're also giving ourselves more time to complete this work. He talks about, in All and Everything, the outrun-san keep, not to give oneself up to those of one's associations resulting from the functioning of only one or another of one's brains. Using only one center makes us not use our energy correctly. If we were aligned with all three centers, we'd be working obviously more harmoniously, and maybe that would be a more of an economic way of using our own energy, because we'd be thinking when we should be thinking, feeling when we should be feeling, moving when we should be moving, instead of misusing our centers. As many of us know, we think when we should be feeling, and we often feel when we should be thinking. And someone was debating with me, maybe we get this round the wrong way quite a lot, which I think we do. We do misunderstand what our own senses are doing, which is why we need to have a better understanding of our centers and be more aware of ourselves. And this is all part of the working on ourselves. But I was going to read a bit about time. There's quite a lot on time, the heropass, because, you know, time seems to be the enemy. And this is also from views from the real world. So the only thing we can do is to economize. Time is proportionate to the flow of associations. It is relative. You sit at home, you are calm. You feel that you've been sitting 5 minutes, but the clock shows that an hour has gone by. Another time you are waiting for somebody in the street. You're annoyed that he does not come, and you think you have been waiting an hour, whereas it is only 5 minutes. It is because during this time you had many associations. You thought, why does he not come? Maybe he's been run over, and so on. The more you concentrate, the quicker the time goes. An hour may pass unnoticed, because if you concentrate, you have very few associations, few thoughts, few feelings, and time seems short. Time is subjective. It is measured by associations. When you sit without associations, time seems long. Externally, time does not exist. It exists for us internally. Just as in the thinking center, associations go on in other centers also. The secret of prolonging life depends on the ability to spend the energy of our centers slowly and only intentionally. Learn to think consciously. Learn to think consciously. This produces economy in the expenditure of energy. And then he reminds us, don't dream. Oh, I used to be such a big daydreamer. You know, daydream my life away. And we often see people daydreaming. Most people, when we're out and about in the, you know, walking the streets, going shopping or whatever, you notice most people are in a world of their own. They're daydreaming away. And being conscious, as he's saying here, is a better way of using our energy and spending that time. And time kind of works with us when we're conscious. It's helping us along. We're using that time to develop. And when we're daydreaming, time's just like, you're not paying attention. I'm going to whiz past, and suddenly your life would be over, and you'd be dead, and you'd never have awoken. And instead, you just get caught up in the whole cycle of coming back. Going on about time, because there was quite a few quotes which weren't from views from the real world. Let me just find them from In Search of the Miraculous. So this is Ouspensky. I remember G's words that time is breath. Why are sleep and waking the breath of organic life? Plants, when asleep, that is at night, exhale, and when awake, that is by day, inhale. 2.5 million years for the life of organic life, and 75 times 10 to the power of 9 of years for that of the earth. A lot of numbers there. But just think of all that air that's been breathed in and out over all that time, and how that time's gone on from all that time. You know, what was he saying? 75 times 10 to the power of 9 of years. That's a huge number. I'm not very mathematical, but it's huge. And in all that time, not many people have developed themselves, and we're being given that chance now to develop ourselves. Right, where was I? Right, so he's going on about all these different periods, and he says how at the same time, each of these periods denoted a corresponding but lower period in a higher cosmos and a corresponding higher period in a lower cosmos. Because he's talking about all these periods of going on through time, which some appear to be connected with others or are separated, but they create, he says here, the shortest visual impression, breath, inhalation and exhalation, the period of sleeping and waking, and the average maximum of life. We're trying to extend our life force so that we can live long enough, as I was saying at the beginning, to develop ourselves. And we all fall down, we all go into days of just living in imagination or living in negative thought. And those days, obviously, they're wasted, but we need to make up with them with working upon ourselves. Right, this is what I meant with Ouspensky. Right, the moving and instinctive centers are 30,000 times faster than the intellectual center. And the emotional center, when it works with its proper speed, is 30,000 times faster than the moving and instinctive centers. It means that the different centers have quite different time. The instinctive and moving centers have 30,000 times longer time than the intellectual center. So I find this all a bit confusing about how, they're saying we've got to bring all our centers together, but if the centers are all working at different times and rates, can we do that? Can we balance our centers out? Or do we need to be aware that some centers work much faster than other centers? And then within each center, there's another 3 centers. So in the emotional center, there's also an intellectual emotional center, an emotional center, and a moving emotional center. So are they helping balance it out? These are all things I have to ponder on, and I find it quite difficult sometimes. Try not to fall into daydreaming about it. Try to use the right energy to ponder on all this. Because Ouspensky says, when we say a thing exists, we mean by this existence in time. And we must remember that Ouspensky was very interested in time. He wrote a book about time and the 4th dimension before he met Gurdjieff. He understood that time had a special impact of some kind on us. So we want to make use of time to our advantage to help us develop, when most people are just wasting time in their lives. They might think that they're using their time productively and, living in their materialistic world. But from an esoteric point of view, that's a wasting time. They're living it in an exoteric way. We want to use time in an esoteric way, in that we are using it to our best advantage, and if possible, slowing it down. And I'm wondering if that slowing it down, like you were saying about concentrating, because Gurdjieff, I think, was quite anti doing many things at once, which I know multitasking is a really popular thing in the last few years, or longer than that even. But I think multitasking creates mistakes, and obviously you're using lots of energy to do all that multitasking. So if we're concentrating on one task at a time, you're doing that job properly because you're concentrating on that task. And also when we're pondering, we're concentrating. We're pondering on a situation, like I was talking about all the numbers of the periods. I need to ponder on that more so that it can start developing inside me and the answers coming through. And that should be a creative, positive, constructive way of using myself and time. Right, hold on, I was going to go to all and everything. So I was talking earlier about why time started eating up heaven and God created the universe. And that's from All and Everything, page 749. Our omnipotent creator for the first time made it clear that the cause of this gradual diminishing of the volume of the sun absolute, heaven, was merely the heropass, that is, the flow of time itself. And I myself have been quite fascinated with time over the most of my life. What is time? It's always perplexed me. So that was probably one of the things that definitely drew me to Gurdjieff when I read that in the book. It was like, so time is the reason that everything dies, isn't it? Everything rots and decays. And we need to somehow kind of trick time so that we can have the time to develop ourselves. And we're doing that by concentrating on one thing at a time. And Gurdjieff goes on to say, in All and Everything, the exceptional peculiarity of this cosmic phenomenon, time. Genuine objective science formulates this cosmic phenomenon thus: time in itself does not exist. There is only the totality of the results ensuing from all the cosmic phenomena present in the given place. Time itself, no being can either understand by reason or sense by any outer or inner being function. It cannot even be sensed by any gradation of instinct which arises and is present in every more or less independent cosmic concentration. It is possible to judge time only if one compares real cosmic phenomena which proceed in the same place and under the same conditions, where time is being constated and considered. It is necessary to notice that in the great universe, all phenomena in general, without exception, wherever they arise and manifest, are simply successively law-conformable fractions of some whole phenomenon which has its prime arising on the most holy sun absolute. So I challenge you all to tell me what time is. And in consequence, all cosmic phenomena, wherever they proceed, have a sense of objectivity. And time does affect everything, doesn't it? There's nothing escapes time. And these successively law-conformable fractions are actualized in every respect, and even in the sense of their involution and evolution, owing to the chief cosmic law, the sacred heptaparapassionok. Law 7, everyone? I'm sure you remember that. Only time alone has no sense of objectivity, because it is not the result of the fractioning of any definite cosmic phenomena. And it does not issue from anything, but blends always with everything and becomes self-sufficiently independent. Therefore, in the whole of the universe, it alone can be called and extolled as the ideally unique subjective phenomenon. I'm going to say that again, the ideally unique subjective phenomenon, because it is subjective. There's nothing else that affects us like time does, even though it's also affecting everything, so it is objective as well. Isn't that fascinating? Thus, uniquely time alone, or as it is sometimes called, the heropass, has no source from which it shall rise and should depend, but like divine love flows always independently by itself and blends proportionally with all the phenomena present in the given place and in the given arisings of our great universe. And isn't it interesting that it's the only other thing that is like it, not like it in its conception, but in that it's the only unique subjective thing is divine love, which is what we need to create in ourselves. You know, once we can understand, receive and be divine love, the world is totally different. Maybe time even stops for us, but expressing divine love, true divine love, which none of us understands at the moment. None of us have reached it. Probably the only people that ever have at the moment is the Buddha and Christ Jesus. And, you know, Jesus got it because the Holy Spirit came down upon him and he was filled with the divine love, but he must have been already developed to such a way to be blessed with that. So this is something we can still work upon ourselves. We can develop our bodies, our minds, our hearts, and open them to receive that Holy Spirit so that we can have the divine love within ourselves. Okay, Buddha looks like he did it himself, so we can even do it that way through an enlightening procedure. Maybe once we've got that, fingers crossed, hearts crossed, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Then we are working, would it be against time, or would we, as the Gurdjieff calls it, the hero pass? Will we pass over time? Will we be the hero that breaks it? And I'd like to thank my friend who does know that he told me this. I didn't know if he wanted to be name checked, but he was talking to me about the hero pass. Is that why it's called that? Because if we can develop ourselves to become the heroes that we're supposed to be, maybe we pass over time. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank Mr. Gurdjieff for all the time he's given to all his writings and to his teachings. May we pass over time. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Thank you.